2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to series on Java collection framework brought to you by TalentSprint. So we are down to the 7th session today that is going to be on Iterators, iterable interface, and then we'll quickly move on to Eclipse where I'll show you a few code samples and examples how everything that we have discussed so far actually works live. Okay, so thank you for those of you who have joined me in the series. For those of you who have joined us just today, which is the last session, don't worry because you can go back to the YouTube or Facebook, whichever platform you're on, and you guys can go ahead and check the videos that are already there. So videos are there in archive. You can go back and walk through whatever difficulties you had, be it list, be it sets, vectors, etc. All the topics are all present. So those of you who have missed any of the live sessions can go on and watch it in the archives. All right, now without any further delay, let's see who all have joined us. We have Karan, we have Veera, we have Madhav Rapu, Mohit is there, Megha Patil is there, Harish, Vijay. Hello everyone. Narendra just joined. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you had a good day, and let's start off. So first let me take you to the PPT where we'll just go to briefly walk back through the whole session which we have discussed so far, and at the last slide we'll talk a bit about iterable interface and then move on to Eclipse. All right. Hi Anurag, Arpan, Aurel. Okay, so we have collections framework, which we discussed, all the methods that are provided by the collection framework to the collection interface to work on different type of collections. And then we have collections class, which is a utility class, which again provides us with some methods to work with different collections. Then we have synchronized versus concurrent collection. We saw list, we saw the methods of list, we moved on to the implementations of list, that is array list, linked list. We also saw vector, which is a legacy class to work with list, and then we also took a look at stack, how push pop operations work on stack, right? Then we moved on to set implementations, that is enum set, hash set, linked hash set, tree set, etc. Then we moved on to take a look at sorted set and navigable set. We saw the methods that are provided by the navigable set. Now these are not all the methods provided by navigable set, but a few of the methods which are majorly used. All right. We have queues, ordered list of object that works on the first in first out principle. We saw the methods provided for insert, retrieve and remove. Now the first column of methods that you see returns an exception if some error occur, and the second column that you see right here returns some value that will tell you that something is missing in the code. Like if you try to retrieve something using the peek method and let's say the queue is empty, so there's nothing to return, so the peek will return you null while the element method will throw an exception, right? Then we saw queue implementations, linked list, priority queue. We also saw dequeue and the implementations of dequeue, that is linked list and array dequeue. Then we moved on to the methods, and finally yesterday we talked about map interface, all the methods that are used to assess the values of the map, and then the map implementations, right? Sorted map and navigable map. Again, navigable map does the same thing. The sorted map sorts the map, and navigable map gives you a subset of the map to work on, correct, based on certain conditions. So we have head map, we have tail map, we have sub map, etc. Now moving on to iterable. So before I begin with this, let me quickly check if you so far have any doubts. Veera is saying Java beginner series is very interactive. I'm glad that you like the series, Veera. One video on that series is coming up every week. So you can subscribe to the channel so that you get notification whenever any new video is updated on that series. Madhav Rapu is saying somewhat disturbance, ma'am. I hope the video is now clear, Madhav Rapu. We have Samson. Samson, welcome to the first live session. I hope you like the session as well, as much as you like the videos on the channel. Rashmi is asking, is this topic important from company interview point of view? Rashmi, this topic is absolutely very important from company interview point of view, and actually many of you students requested us to take up collections framework, so we decided to come up with this series of 7 days so that we can slowly, easily, in bits and pieces, good amount of chunks, talk about each and every collection that is out there, right? That is why we have come up with this set of 7 videos which you can walk through. TechnoGeek says, where do I find this all previous lectures? Okay, at the end of the session, I'll take you to the YouTube channel once we are done with today's session, and I'll walk you through everything that is there on the YouTube channel so that it is easier for all you guys to figure out where to go back to and check all these videos. All right, cool. So moving on with Iterable. Now, as you can see in the diagram that I have kept here, Iterable is the root interface of our collection framework. All right, now what this Iterable interface does is, it's in the java.lang.iterable package, and what it simply does is it provides you with the methods and techniques to iterate over all the collections that are there, right? So since collection interface implements our iterable, it inherits all the methods in there, and likewise for all the stuff that you see. So list, so these are all interfaces, all right? List, set, sorted set, navigable set, queue, dequeue, and then apart from the collection class hierarchy, we also have map hierarchy that is considered part of our collection framework. Okay, now part of this collection framework, if you see, there are several implementations. We have linked list, we have array list, we have vector, we have stack. So these are all explicit implementations of the list interface. Okay, similarly the same goes for set, queue, dequeue, and map. So like we saw before, for map, let's say there are several implementations. Now these are all classes: hash map, hash table, enum map, identity hash map, linked hash map. These all classes are subset of the map interface that you see here. Okay, so if you want to talk about the implementations, in what different ways you can implement a map interface, those are the implementations of the map interface. Similarly, we have sorted map. Now how you can implement sorted map? You can implement sorted map using a tree map, correct? So for sorted map, we have one implementation, that is tree map. Similarly, for navigable map, we have one implementation, that is tree map. All right, and the same goes on for the set and queue. So if you go back to the previous session where we had set, see, dequeue, we have implementation, linked list, array, dequeue. You can fill up this whole chart out here, and it's one simple place where you can, you know, write down, jot down till you have this all imprinted in your brain. Okay, so whenever someone asks you the implementations of sorted set, it should be at the tip of your finger point. Then how, like if let's say list implementations we talk about, how is each of these list implementation different from the other? In which case you would prefer a vector, in which case you would go for a stack. Okay, so all this we have discussed so far, and all of this you should be able to now answer if asked in an interview in any form. Okay, so the questions revolve around just the properties that all these implementations have. Okay, so you just have to be very careful, and it's fairly simple once you know the properties of each of these classes and interfaces. Cool. Now let me move you back to Eclipse, and before that let's see what all questions you have so far, if any. Okay, previous videos, Arpan, I have already answered that. We'll walk you through the YouTube channel where we have the previous videos that are there. Okay, and what else? Maslib is saying that the video are not clear explained. I hope you guys don't have any trouble with the streaming of the video. Okay, so if that is the case, just drop a comment. We'll see what we can do about that. And Rashmi is saying, can we use collection to implement multiple inheritance? Rashmi, if you want to implement multiple inheritance in any form, like let's say you want to do a project or a program where you want to explain multiple inheritance, I think you are better off using some other example than using collections to do that. You can figure out some actually real life example which would be more interesting if you want to show something like that. Okay, so let's go back to Eclipse. Let me quickly create a class for you guys. All right, let's say we create a class called collection. All right, cool. Now let's start off with some basic stuff, coding some very basic stuff to see how everything works. Now, one of the most prominent questions that was asked throughout the series was this. Let's say we have a list having fruits. Okay, fine. So first thing, if you are using collections in your program, remember to import java.util.star. Okay, this is what gets all the util collection framework classes into your current program. Okay, now the question that many of you asked was, why do we use list object name equal to new linked list or set object name equal to new hash set or linked hash set instead of using this? Correct. So let me write it in two parts. Say we have this and another way to do is this. Correct. Now many of you asked, why do we do it the first way, the first line, instead of doing it the second line? See, there's no harm writing the code as written in line number 7. Linked list string fruit is equals to new linked list. This will work as good as list fruits is equals to new linked list, right? There's no trouble with the code if you write it like that. But the one and only thing, the one and only reason why we do this is called as implementing programming to interface. Okay, now what is programming to interface? We know list is an interface and linked list is an implementation of this interface. Correct? So list is an interface, linked list is a class. Now what do we mean by programming to interface is, we try to decouple our code from a specific implementation of the interface. If you write linked list equals to new linked list, you are working on a specific implementation of linked list, correct? But if you say list, which is an interface, which is a generic abstract view of all the list classes, and then you call linked list, you're not working on a specific implementation, correct? For instance, say you were writing a piece of code that later would be imported to some other place, correct? Now you started off with creating linked list, you used this line in your code, linked list, okay? But later on, when the design was done and when the data got changed throughout the process of project planning and creation, etc., you realize that instead of linked list, array list creation would have been a better choice in your program, correct? Now at that point of time, changing linked list to array list would be a very bad idea. But if you have written your code like we have done in the first line, all you have to do is go here, change it to array list. Cool. Now what that will do is all the methods, etc., that you are going to use in the program would perform or function absolutely correct after changing this. But in this case, if you have used a linked list, there could be errors and the program might not function the way it would while it was using linked list. Of course, you can go ahead and do change here, linked list to array list, but the guarantee that your program will work as expected or as it was working before is not there. So ideally or always, it's best practice to use interface and then to call the specific implementation of that interface that you want to use in the program, okay? Now moving on to how do we add details into the list, okay? So let's say we add a few. How do we do that? Add. So we have seen all these methods. I'm just going to quickly walk you through everything. Let's say apple, all right? So what we have done is we have added 3 fruits to our list called fruits. Now one way to assess the elements in the list is by index, that is, let's say fruits dot get 1. So we are asking to print whatever the fruit is at the index 1 in our list. Save and run. Okay, so you see it gave us the output banana, correct? So the list adds in the order specified, and at the 0 index would be apple, 1 was banana and 2 is papaya. So we asked for get 1, we got banana. Now if you want to, let's say, reverse your list, okay, what is the method for reversing the list? So we have seen this also. I want you guys to recollect, exercise your brain and tell me what method would you use if you want to reverse this list. And as a hint, this is the first thing that we discussed. I think in the very first class we talked about a utility class that we have, right? And the utility class provides us with method to reverse any collection basically. So what is that method? Varun says reverse. Madhav Rapu says get reverse string. How do you get reverse string, Madhav Rapu? It's just a function name. So like we said, it's the reverse function which is present in the collections utility class, correct? So all you have to do is call that function, that is collections.reverse, and pass this list that you want to reverse into it. So we say fruits. Okay, now this is going to reverse your string. So let me show you how that works. Let's say we print our string before and after we reverse. Okay, so let's do a system.out fruits, and then let's do it again here. Okay, let's see what the output comes. So you see, before reverse, the output is the order in which we inserted elements into our list, that is apple, banana and papaya. And once you call the reverse method, the order is reversed, so that is banana and apple. So this is how you use the methods provided by the collections utility class to work on the different collections that you are using. Okay, now moving on, let's take a look at how do you loop through your interface, or sorry, collection. All right, so one way to do that, if you are using iterable, is by using a for loop, which is pretty simple. So you say for object O. Now this is going to iterate through which collection? You mention the name of the collection. Okay, that is it. It's different from the typical for loops that you use. All right, so for object O, iterating through fruits, what we are going to do is we are going to print O. Okay, so we have created an object O, which will iterate through the collection list, that is fruits, and it will in every iteration print the object. So again, save and run. You see, every object is printed in iteration: apple, banana, papaya. Okay, so this will continue printing till all the elements are printed. This is one of the way to do it. Okay, let me comment this out and show you another way how we can achieve the same thing. So another thing is we create an iterator to loop over our collection. So how do we do that? We call iterator, give any name, let's say iterator only, equals to fruits. Now you give the name of the collection on which you want to iterate it over. Okay, fruits dot iterator. Fine. So this will iterate over your fruits collection. Now how you continue? Let's see, we have an error. Continue with the code. While, so we use the methods provided by the iterator interface. Now iterator class, what are the methods? We say while iterator dot has next. Okay, so while iterator dot has next, we will continue through our loop. Okay, now inside this, whatever you want to do, you can update each element in the list, you can print out each element in the list. Now if you have to take out an element of the list, you say string element iterator dot next. Okay, this will give you elements of the list, and then you can individually go ahead and print out the element of the list that you want. Okay, so simple system.out.println line that prints element. Fine. Now this while loop is another simple way to implement your iterator. So you just create iterator that iterates over your list, that is fruits. All right, now while iterator dot has next simply means that till you have a next element in the iterator, we'll continue with the while loop. All right, Now inside the while loop, we are taking out each and every element, and you can process whatever way you want to process this element in the iterator. Okay, and then finally go ahead and print it out, or if you want to do some operation on the element, change the element, append something to the element, all those operations can be performed using the iterator. Okay, so these are the two ways through which you can iterate over your collection. Fine. Now let's move on to another quick implementation. Let me do it at the top so it's easy for you to see. Let's now check how maps are implemented. So again, we say map. Someone asked me yesterday, does it have to be a string and a string? It can be an integer and a string. So the key can be an integer as well. Okay, but remember, it has to be a wrapper class. You cannot go ahead and write here int. It has to be integer wrapper class. All right, let's create a map of cities. New, let's say we have hash map. Okay, integer and string. Correct. So the key is integer, the value is going to be a string. Fine. We take this part off. Cool. Now how do map work? Like, if you remember, when we discussed, we saw that if you're using a stack, you do push pop operations on stack. So if you have to add any element, you say push. If you have to remove any element, you say pop. Similarly, while you're working with a map, if you have to insert any element, you say cities dot put. Now put will put the key value pair in the map. So that is one. Let's say we say create a list, basically a map of all the travel destinations, let's say 2, and let's do here Goa. Cities dot put 3. Let's do, what do I like? Let's say Pondicherry. All right. So again, you can create add multiple values as and when you want. Let's make it a linked hash map, or what else can we go ahead and do? Let's keep it a hash map. Okay, so you can go ahead and try experimenting with different implementations right here. You can go ahead and try, but again, program to interface. Keep this map so that you decouple your code from the specific implementations of a hash map. Okay. Now again, if you have to print it out, if you have to print this map out, all the values, how would you do that? Of course, you'll have to use iterator, but how are you going to import this out? Print the keys, or if you have to print the values. Any answers? Looks like you guys haven't practiced enough after this sessions. Should go back, write code like this, see what the errors are coming in the code, see how to insert the values, how to delete the values, how you can operate on one particular specific value that is there in the list or the map or the queue. all these things, if you only start practicing, you will be able to get them better. Alright, so if you have to iterate through, let's say, the key set, okay, you can simply say iterator cities dot, you'll get the function key set. Now when you're writing a code, you'll get this little yellow card whenever you are on a function, right, which will automatically, it tells you what the function is going to do. So you don't have to go to any book or any course or anything. You just have to start programming. The more you do, the more you read these cards, the more your understanding of the language will become better. Correct? So you use key set dot iterator. See, the very first method is iterator, and you get an iterator to move over your cities map. Now let's try using a while loop to iterate over, right? Or let's say while iterator dot has next. Okay. Now inside this while iterator dot has next, see, you get the simple functions and pointers and methods that will tell you what is going wrong in the program, which you can, if you are writing a program on your own for the first time, it's fairly easy to pick up these codes and then to work accordingly. You see right there. So what was the problem here? We were not able to cast it to an iterator, and it just changed it. So next time when you write the same line of code, you will get to know what the error was, right? Now similarly, inside this while loop, you can get the value of what you are going to work on. So object key is equals to iterator dot next will give you the key value, and based on the key value, using the key, you can get the actual value stored in the map, right? Now similarly, let's say we want to work on a tree, or let's say we want to work on a set. So we say set integer. Now what this integer function is doing, we are calling a generic, telling it explicitly that our set would contain integer values only. Correct? So let's say marks, let's store the marks, we secured new and tree set. Okay, again tell the compiler that it is integer. Cool, simple. And if at any point of time you get an error like this, simply import. So it wasn't quite working because of the import missing. Correct? Now if you don't want to write all these imports that we are writing every time we are creating a set or a map, another way to do it is just say java.util.star. That will import everything that is in there, from maps to set to everything. So you don't have to, every time you write set, you don't have to go ahead and type an import statement. If you write tree set, you don't have to go and say import java.util.treeset. You just say star and everything else is imported on its own. Now again, if you have to add elements into tree set, marks.add and give whatever marks you want to work on. Let me quickly add 2-3 elements here and show you the methods that are there in the navigable set. Correct? We have not seen that so far. Let's say 97 marks.add 85, not add all. Add all will add another collection to your current collection. Okay, marks dot add, let's say 73, again add. Right, now let's create a navigable set out of this that then we'll use to show you the functionality of head set, tail set, all those methods, right? So let's create one more set, tree set, that would be our navigable set, integer. Let's call it tree set. Okay, all right. Now instead of adding values to this tree set that we want as a navigable set, what we are going to do is we are going to use the methods of head set, tail set, etc. Now let's say we want this set to hold the marks that are greater than 80. Okay, what we do is just say tree set equals to marks dot, for greater, remember we use the method tail set, and say, let's say you want to see greater than 80. Okay, simple. So tree set marks tail set would be greater than 80. Okay, and if you have to say, let's say marks that are less than 80, so you use head set. So remember, let me just write it down quickly here. Head set will give you a set that has less than the value mentioned. So if you say less head set for 80, the one value that will go in the tree set would be 73. Okay, then we have tail set. Now what tail set will do, it will give you the values more than the value you pass. So if you say tail set and say 80, it will give you all the marks that are greater than 80, 85, 97. If you say 85, 85 included all the marks greater than 85, so 85, 97. Okay, then we have subset is another method in which you give two parameters, right, which define basically the range that I want numbers from this to this. So if you say I want numbers, all the elements that are there in the marks collection which are of the range from 80 to 90. Okay, so you pass the 80, 90 parameter in this function, and then you will get another set that will have the value between 80 to 90. All right, so these are the simple ways by which you can use, you know, your collections and work on the collections. So it's pretty fairly easy to understand from this that all you have to know is, number one, what each and every interface and each and every implementation of the interface has. What functions do they work on? What functions are provided by the collection interface? What functions are provided by the collections utility class? So you need to have an understanding of that, and number two, you need to have an understanding of the properties of each of these collection interfaces, right, so that you can decide in your program. Now let's say you are doing a project for your company and the whole design and the creation of that project is on you. So figuring out based on the inputs given by your project manager that which particular collection framework is best suited for the needs that you want to program, that you will be able to do only when you are aware of all these collections framework that are available. So if it's a key value pair kind of, you know, requirement, you can go for any of the map implementations. Now in the map implementations, which one to choose? Again, based on the specifications that would be given to you by your project managers or your product designers that you'll have to decide, right? Now, let's say if you want to have a list in your program somewhere to hold the data. Now you want it to be a linked list or array list, what you'll have to decide based on, again, the specification given or the kind of output you are looking at, right? So it's very crucial for you to have an understanding of all these interfaces and classes and the framework as a whole, right? Like someone asked me in the middle that why is it actually like important for an interview? So that is the reason why this is important for any Java interview that you are going to give, because these are almost used in any company. If you are programming in Java, you will encounter a collection framework or some utility class, or you have to encounter collection in one way or the other in your project, right? So it is very good to have an understanding of what all these do and how they achieve the functionalities that they say they offer, right? So that was it for today's session, guys. If you have any doubts even after this series, like today is the last session, you can very well go ahead and post it in the comments. I'll show you now where to go on YouTube and how to post your queries on YouTube. All right, and again, there is Java beginner series as well. There's this collection frameworks. Many of you have asked me about Hibernate, right? Now Hibernate, again, we'll plan a session around Hibernate pretty soon. There were many queries on design pattern and MVC architecture as well, so we are planning to take up those in the series coming up next. And there's a very interesting session coming up for you guys on, again, the YouTube channel, which will deal with another language that we are coming up with, that we are launching. So that also let's take a look at. So let me quickly take you to, yeah, what industry wants. All right, so this is one of the things that I haven't talked about so far. The last to last live session I talked about this, where we saw that there is a what industry wants session. Now the next session I would like to remind you is on 21st October. So those of you who can join are welcome to join the session at 11 a.m. on 21st October. Those of you who cannot, all these sessions that are done by different personalities from different companies, just to bridge the gap and tell you that what is the market actually looking for, right? You being in colleges, and there are times when students come to us and they are not aware of what the market actually needs. What do they have to do? What is the current technology that is of prime importance? What personal qualities should they work on to improve their personality? How should they, present themselves in an interview? Now all these questions are dealt with in these sessions on what industry wants. So there are archives at the very bottom of the page. You can go ahead and play the archives of any previous talk that has happened if you cannot walk into the session. But I would recommend walking into the session, because if you are in and around Hyderabad, walk into the session, because then you can directly ask your questions from whoever is the speaker for the session. Like for the October 21st session, we have Mr. T. N. Hari, who is the HR head of Big Basket, right? So you'll get to know very interesting points and views of how to perform, what to study, what not to study, what is outdated, what is upcoming, etc. Right? Now you can go to this. If you want to watch these archives, you just have to type www.talentsprint.com followed by WIW, right? What industry wants, WIW, and just hit enter. You'll land on this page where you can go through all the archives, right? Now moving on, let's take a look at the YouTube page. So just go ahead and type here TalentSprint IT jobs and placement tips. you'll get to land on this page. Now, Java for Beginners series that some of you asked me on the chat today. We have Java tutorial for beginners. Alright, so this is the TalentSprint IT job and placement tips place. Just scroll down. These are all the live sessions that have happened in the past, and then we have Java tutorial for beginners. So you can play all one by one, walk through this series, and starts from the very basics of how to install Java, how to install Eclipse, how to, work with your Eclipse. So we have so far 18 videos here, starting with Java introduction, installing Java JDK, then how to write your first program, Eclipse shortcut keys that help you write your program faster and smarter, right? All these sessions, one by one, looping statements, conditional statements, you can walk through the sessions, and these are very small 4 to 5 minute sessions at the max, or if there is any program involved, the session would go on to 10 minutes at the max. Quick, short, bite-sized sessions for you to work on, right? And for those of you asking me about this series, that is the framework series, so whenever you go to a YouTube page, you land on the home page, right? So at the very next, there is a videos tab. Click on the videos tab, and if you scroll down, you see, so this is the current live session going on, and these are the previous sessions that have happened. Okay, so we have stack and vector, we have queue, we have sets, we have map, we have 7 tricky interview questions on list, we have introduction to Java, right? So all these introduction to Java collections, all these sessions you can find on the videos list, or maybe what we'll do is we'll make another playlist along so that it can come on the home page for you guys, like this Java tutorial for beginners. Okay, all right, that's it for the session, guys. Let me see if you guys have any further questions. Why we have to use wrapper classes? So collections work only on wrapper classes. You cannot work using primitive data type on collections. So any data that you are storing has to be an object, right? And for it to be an object, you have to use the wrapper class to work with. All right, now next, what do we have? Chagan Poge is asking, tell me about Hadoop. Hadoop is another language altogether. All right, so I cannot take it up in this session, but let me see if I can get an introductory session about different programming languages that you have been asking me. Let's say a session on Hadoop or a video on Hadoop. So I would say subscribe to the YouTube channel, because any such video that would be coming in the future would be coming up on the YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe. And for those of you on Facebook, there are live streams happening on Facebook as well. So you simply say TalentSprint, go to the page, right? And at the very left, you see this videos link, right? Go to videos. So the live stream will come at the very top that you see here. And then you get the list of all the live sessions that have happened. So this collection framework series, we have done both on YouTube as well as Facebook. So you see that collection series here as well. And there have been sessions previously around IT, aptitude, everything, right? So all these sessions come up right here. So you have 5 ways to answer why should we hire you interview question, and you have more interesting requirements of IT industry for 2017, where I discuss about few pointers that you should follow, right? 7 important skills needed for a successful IT career. So there are live streams happening on the Facebook page as well, so you can like and follow that. And most of the time the live streams at both the channels are different. This one we did combined on both Facebook as well as YouTube, because both the audience were like very eagerly interested for Collections Framework series. Yeah, so that's about it. What else do we have? All right, for who asked this question that why we use wrapper classes, why we don't use primitive types, Ashokan was actually trying to send a link to the chat, but I think sending links on the chat is disabled. So you can go ahead, type why Java collections not directly store primitive types, but anyways it will boil down to the fact that first off they use only objects, and second you have to use wrapper classes so that your primitive data objects or primitive data elements are wrapped around. I guess we talked about this multiple times. Wrapper classes just give you an object out of your primitive data type. So this is your primitive data type. If you call on a wrapper object, the same value that you hold in your primitive data type will now be in an object instead. That's it, right? Class for data structures and algorithm. There have been, I think, 1 or 2 live sessions around data structures, if I'm not wrong, so you can go back and watch that. Maybe down the line we'll bring another session on data structures or algorithm. And for the final news for all of you who are new to the language Python or who want to learn Python because it's booming up now, it's the most highly demanded technology for 2017. There is going to be a series on the YouTube channel where we'll talk about Python. So from the very basics of installing Python on your system, how to work on Python, to the very nitty-gritty details of Python like lists, tuples, dictionaries, why you want to use Python, why is Python of importance, why should you be aware of Python. So we'll start like a Java for beginner course which introduces anyone who wants to learn Java to the language. There would be a Python series coming up soon which will introduce you guys to the Python language, right? So you don't have to have any prerequisite or any prior knowledge of the language. Just come to the live stream, watch the stream, and don't forget after the stream, practice whatever is said and told in the session to understand the language better. And the more you practice, the more questions you will come back with, right, in the next session, and that will also help you understand the language a little more better. Fine. So we are coming up with that, and with that I'll say goodbye for the session today. We'll meet back, I think, on Monday. Let me check the date. Yeah, 23rd of October will be another session, like our usual Monday session at 6 o'clock on YouTube. So join me on that, and we'll discuss about design patterns and model 1 model 2 architecture, mostly focusing around MVC architecture in that session. And if we have time, we might take up a topic or two that again have been requested by you in the previous session. All right, thank you so much for joining me, guys. Have a great day ahead, and advance wishes for a happy Diwali. I'll see you on Monday. Bye bye.